Attraction is far more mysterious and complex than the eye alone can perceive. It cannot be reduced to symmetry, fashion, or culturally defined standards of beauty. At its core, attraction is deeply rooted in the unconscious, both in how it is expressed and in how it is received. We may be drawn to someone without knowing why, compelled toward a person whose presence evokes feelings, yearnings, or memories we cannot name. This attraction does not always follow reason. It does not obey conscious logic or deliberate thought. Instead, it originates in deeper layers of the psyche, where archetypes and symbolic patterns shape our inner world. What we find attractive is often a reflection of what we lack, what we fear, what we admire, or what we have yet to integrate within ourselves. The unconscious mind projects parts of itself onto others, and these projections can result in intense feelings of fascination, connection, or desire that seem to arise spontaneously and irrationally. When someone is attractive but doesn't know it, it's often because the qualities that make them attractive are not qualities they consciously associate with desirability. A quiet presence, emotional depth, vulnerability, or even a certain kind of woundedness may evoke profound responses in others. These traits may not be seen as marketable by societal standards, but they stir something within the collective unconscious. People sense these hidden aspects and are drawn to them, not because they shine brightly on the surface, but because they resonate with something dormant or unspoken inside themselves. Attraction in this context is not about admiration from a distance, but about recognition, a deep, often wordless sense that someone reflects back a piece of our own psyche. We may be attracted to someone because they embody an image we have held since childhood, a figure from myth, dream, or early experience that shaped our inner landscape. These inner images, what Jung called archetypes, are inherited patterns that influence our perceptions, emotions, and relationships, often without our awareness. Be it animal animals, for example, are archetypal representations of the opposite sex within each person's psyche. When we encounter someone who mirrors the qualities of our inner anima or animus, we may feel an inexplicable pull toward them. It is not necessarily their objective features that draw us, but the way they activate a part of our inner life. They appear to us as more than a person. They become symbolic, saturated with meaning, mystery, and projection. If you possess qualities that correspond to someone else's unconscious ideal, gentleness, strength, mystery, playfulness, you may find that people are magnetically drawn to you, even if you yourself do not understand why. This can be particularly confusing if the traits you offer are not ones you've been taught to value. For example, someone might be profoundly moved by your emotional openness, though you perceive it as a weakness. Another might be entranced by your independence, though you feel lonely in it. In this way, your attractiveness lives in the realm of the unconscious, outside your direct line of sight. The same principle explains why attraction is often asymmetrical or inexplicable. We may feel powerfully attracted to someone who does not seem conventionally appealing, or we may find that others are drawn to us in ways that feel surprising, confusing, or even burdensome. The unconscious operates on different principles than the conscious mind. It is more concerned with wholeness than with appearance. Attraction may be a signal from the deeper psyche that some aspect of ourselves is seeking integration. When others are attracted to us unconsciously, it may be because we carry a symbol, a fragment, a mood, or an energy that their soul needs. We are, in a sense, being used by the collective unconscious to bring about a process of psychological balance and transformation in others. And often we are not aware this is happening. We simply go through life wondering why people stare, why they open up, why they follow our words, or seem affected by our presence. This disconnection between how we see ourselves and how we are perceived by others is a central theme in depth psychology. The ego, our conscious identity, is only a small portion of the total personality. Much of who we are and how we affect the world is rooted in the shadow, the animan or animus, and the self, which all reside beyond the ego's control. When we have not made contact with these deeper layers of the psyche, we often remain blind to our own radiance. We may be attractive because we are in tune with something archetypal, but if we do not know this, we walk as unknowing transmitters of something much larger than ourselves. Others may feel it before we do. They may be drawn to us as one is drawn to a fire in the dark, not because we are trying to attract them, but because something in us speaks to something in them. This kind of attraction is not born from effort or strategy. It arises naturally from psychological resonance. This also explains why some of the most magnetic individuals are not the ones who talk the loudest or dress the boldest, but the ones who carry a sense of mystery, depth, or quiet certainty. The unconscious responds to symbols, not performances. A person who is in quiet alignment with their inner truth will attract others even without intending to. This often occurs through nonverbal cues, tone of voice, eye contact, body language, energy. These subtle signals carry more psychological weight than most realize. When you are grounded in your own being, you become an anchor for others. People feel safer around you, more alive, more connected to themselves. They may not understand why, but they feel it nonetheless. And you, unaware of the power you hold, may interpret their responses as strange, exaggerated, or unrelated to you. The final piece of the puzzle is that we tend to undervalue what comes naturally to us. If you are deeply empathetic, you may assume everyone feels this way. If you are instinctively kind or intuitive, you may believe these qualities are ordinary. But often what others find most attractive in us are the traits we take most for granted. These traits are rooted in the unconscious. They were not chosen or cultivated. They simply are. They flow from a deeper source. And because they were not developed through the ego's will, they are easily overlooked. Yet others feel them, are drawn to them, and sometimes even fall in love with them. In the end, unconscious attraction reveals more about the inner workings of the psyche than it does about surface appearances. It is not the calculated charm of the personality, but the quiet force of the soul that attracts. This is why so many people are attractive and do not know it. They have not yet turned inward enough to witness what others unconsciously perceive. They are walking symbols, drawing attention without performance, affection without understanding, and longing without awareness. They are living expressions of something ancient within the human spirit, and that is why they are loved quietly, deeply, and often mysterious. The concept of the persona is central to understanding why some individuals are attractive without realizing it. The persona in depth psychology is the mask or social face one presents to the world. It is the version of the self shaped by cultural expectations, social roles, and the need for acceptance. The persona is not false in itself, but it is partial. It does not reflect the totality of the individual. It is a compromise between the inner self and the outer world, often formed in response to what is rewarded or punished by others. As such, the persona can conceal not only one's insecurities and weaknesses, but also one's natural strengths and quiet forms of beauty. Many people live behind personas that have been constructed for survival, for belonging, for stability. In doing so, they may lose touch with the aspects of themselves that are most authentic, most radiant, and therefore most attractive. When someone wears a persona that is overly modest, reserved, or understated, they may fail to see the full impact of their presence on others. They walk through the world with humility or caution, unaware that their very restraint is what draws others in. Often people who don't believe they are attractive carry a persona that downplays their visibility. Perhaps they were taught not to show off or to keep their heads down. Perhaps they internalize the belief that attention is unsafe or undeserved. The result is a kind of psychological invisibility that hides the deeper self, not only from the world, but from the person themselves. And yet the qualities that lie behind the persona do not disappear. They continue to emanate from the individual, often in subtle and unconscious ways, through energy, tone, silence, or emotional presence. This is why someone can be undeniably attractive without being aware of it. Their persona obscures their inner glow while the unconscious continues to express it. This dynamic is complicated by the fact that many of the most attractive qualities are not flashy or conventional. Traits such as depth, kindness, intelligence, mystery, and spiritual calm do not clamor for attention. They do not perform themselves loudly. Instead, they wait patiently to be noticed, often by those who are receptive enough to feel them. When these qualities are not included in the conscious persona, they are often undervalued by the individual. The person may see themselves as unremarkable, even while others are magnetized by something they cannot quite articulate. The individual's inner self, rich, nuanced, and quietly luminous, remains hidden behind a socially conditioned mask of ordinariness. And so the paradox emerges. One can be deeply attractive and yet unable to recognize it, because the persona has been shaped in such a way that it does not account for one's true nature. This disconnect between persona and inner reality often leads to a kind of psychological dissonance. People may respond to the individual with admiration, affection, or desire, while the individual feels confused or skeptical. Compliments are dismissed, attention is doubted, and praise is shrugged off. The persona built around the belief, I am nothing special, cannot perceive feedback that contradicts its own structure. And so, even genuine signs of attractiveness are filtered out. The individual becomes blind to their own effect. They may believe others are being polite, insincere, or mistaken. This blindness is not a flaw. It is the natural outcome of living behind a limited persona for too long. To see oneself clearly, one must look beneath the surface, beyond social roles, cultural scripts, and childhood conditioning. The journey inward is necessary to discover the hidden sources of one's appeal. Until this journey is made, a person may continue to assume that their attractiveness is non-existent simply because it does not align with what their persona has been taught to value. If the world around them only praises loudness, beauty, charisma, or power, they may overlook their own sensitivity, their presence, or their emotional intelligence. They may not realize that others are drawn to them because they are calm in chaos, or because they listen without judgment, or because they hold a kind of stillness that allows others to feel more like themselves. These traits live in the space between the ego and the unconscious. They cannot be fully seen from the outside or the inside unless there is a willingness to confront the mask and ask, who am I without it? There is also the phenomenon of projection to consider. Often others perceive us not as we are, but as we resonate with their inner images. When someone projects love, idealization, or longing onto us, it can feel surreal or disorienting. We may sense that they are seeing something in us that we do not see in ourselves. And in many cases, they are responding not only to our real qualities, but also to the symbolic meaning those qualities hold for them. If we carry a persona that is grounded, warm, or mysterious, others may project archetypal qualities onto us. Wise man, healer, muse, protector, these projections can amplify our attractiveness in ways we cannot control or even comprehend. And yet, because the persona has not integrated these deeper aspects, the individual may be the last to understand why others feel so drawn to them. In relationships, this split becomes even more pronounced. A person may wonder why they are constantly pursued, admired, or desired, despite having an inner voice that says they are plain awkward or uninteresting. This is because the persona operates on the level of social adaptation, not psychological depth. It was never meant to reflect a soul. It was meant to navigate society. When someone's inner self shines through the cracks of their persona, others may sense something real, something rare, something alive. But the individual still identified with the persona may reject or question this perception. They do not believe they are what others see, and so they remain in a kind of emotional exile, unaware of the quiet beauty that emanates from their being. The solution is not to abandon the persona, but to transform it, to make it more transparent, more reflective of the inner self. This requires self-awareness, introspection, and often the guidance of others who can mirror back the parts of ourselves we cannot see. When we begin to recognize the traits we have long dismissed, we make room for a more authentic identity to emerge. We start to believe that we can be both ordinary and extraordinary, visible and mysterious, humble and radiant. In doing so, we no longer rely on the persona to tell us who we are. We begin to carry our attractiveness from within, not as a strategy, but as a quiet truth. The most attractive people are often those who have made peace with their complexity. They do not try to be noticed. They simply are. Their presence is unforced, their charisma unintentional. They may not even speak much, but when they do, people listen. Their persona does not dominate the room, but their being changes the room. This effect is subtle and cannot be manufactured. It emerges when the persona is aligned with a deeper psyche, when the mask is no longer a disguise, but a doorway to the soul. At that point, attractiveness becomes less about being seen and more about being felt. Others respond not to the image, but to the essence, and the individual, no longer blinded by self-doubt or false modesty, begins to recognize the quiet power they carry. Attraction is not always where we expect to find it. It hides beneath the surface, behind that persona, within the unconscious forces that shape our presence and energy. You may not recognize it in yourself because the qualities that make you magnetic are often those you've overlooked, misunderstood, or buried under self-doubt. But others feel it. They respond to the depth you carry, the calm in your voice, the mystery in your silence, or the light in your kindness. You do not need to chase validation or perform desirability. What is real will always speak louder than what is shown. When you begin to turn inward, question the mask you wear, and see yourself without the distortions of conditioning, you will slowly come to realize you have always been more radiant than you believe. Good luck on your journey inward, and thank you for allowing these words to meet you there. May you begin to see the beauty in yourself that others already do.